People who met their crushes years later, how did it turn out? Viewers Edition.
Story 1. I'm late to the party, but here it goes. In 6th grade, a girl, let's call her Anna, got transferred to my class, and at least for me, it was that love at first sight type of deal. She went to the free spot right in front of me, and me being socially awkward, I didn't even try to talk to her at first. Until she started talking to me, asking some stuff about the classes and some stuff here and there. In middle of the second or third period, she asked if she could draw on my notebook, one of the examples our teacher gave us, since I mentioned to her earlier that I always liked to draw stuff but still was quite bad at it. Then she took my notebook and went on drawing. A friend of mine just called me and gave me a WTF look when she did that. I just shrugged and continued the class. On the second day, she gave me her number and we went on talking every day. It just clicked. And at the time, I didn't notice how or why, how stupid I was. We'd talk every day about almost literally everything. She'd tell her problems, vent to me, ask stuff about our classes, and vice versa. Some time goes by, and we are considered our class couple, and we were like that until the end of the 8th. We've gotten really close in those years to a point where I didn't know if she was just being nice to me since my class would hate me for no apparent reason whatsoever, or if she really liked me. At the end of 8th grade, my parents were looking into another school to enroll me for some reason I'd like to not share, and I told her that. When I did, she just said, "Oh, okay," and something along those lines, and our conversation ends. And I went on doing my homework for around 30 minutes, and a really close friend of hers messaged me asking what I did to her. I didn't understand what she meant by that, and asked her what's happening. She then said that Anna was crying because of something I said to her. I then explained to her what happened, and she tried to pull a wing woman for me and Anna. I went to talk to Anna sometime after that. She was crying, saying that she really liked me as well, that she'd miss me, all that stuff. At the time, I didn't notice how much I meant to her. At the beginning of 9th, since my new school was relatively close to my old one, I messaged Anna about meeting her someday. That would work quite well since I'd leave to go home an hour before her. We didn't manage to meet ever after I left that school. Some weeks went by. For some reason, we had got into a discussion. I don't remember why it started, but it happened. We both said stuff we shouldn't have said to each other, like saying crap about each other's insecurities or family problems. When we both stopped, we didn't talk for a week, but that was really bothering me. Not that we stopped talking, but because I felt bad for what I did to her, and I knew I shouldn't have. So I messaged her to apologize for what I did. I said something in the lines of, "I feel bad for what I did to you. This last week, I was feeling awful, like there was some heavy weight on my shoulders. You might not trust me ever again after what I did to you, and I truly understand. I know that I should have never said all those things to you, and I'm really sorry. The fact that we might never go back to what we used to be really makes me feel sad. I just want you to forgive me for what I did." Some minutes went by, and she replied with, "If you regret doing that, why did you do it?" Might have some translation issues on that quote. And she then said some crap about crap me. I didn't say a word after that. Then she proceeded to block me literally everywhere. Hell, even on Twitter, which at the time I used just to post something once, that was it. Fast forward a couple years. After class, my classes were in the morning, like 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. My mom picked me up and said we'd go out for lunch that day. We got into the restaurant, got our food, and while we were eating, I was facing the entrance. And who decides to go by those doors? Anna and some of her friends. I didn't have feelings for her anymore, so I just saw it was her and turned back to my mom to continue what we were talking. And I didn't notice it was me until she sat on a table right in front of me. Her reaction was priceless. She and some friends were laughing. When she looked in my direction and noticed it was me, her joy died in less than a second. That day, I was going to talk to her to see how life is and crap, since she used to have some problems with her mom. But the way she reacted, I decided it was better not. After that, I only saw her on a friend's Instagram stories once. After we had our last conversation, I still had some feelings for her, and it was quite a pain in the butt because a lot of stuff I used to do was somehow a bit of her influence, like the music I'd hear, for example. I remember the good times we had every time I hear Runaway by Galantis playing. since she was the one who chose the song our class would dance at the end of the year. Nowadays, I still remember her music, but I don't feel the same way. I really wish that we'd meet someday just so we could get things sorted at least. She was a really good person, and I hope she still is. I think that about the fact that people fall in love with 3 people in life and how she was the first one. I know because I didn't know I was in love with her until years later. Honestly, a pretty touching story about young love. It's, usually pretty temporary. It doesn't stick around, but the feelings stick around with you. They're so powerful. Like, love at that age is so all-encompassing in ways that I don't think you ever quite feel again. Not to say, like, my partner, Madam Fact, like, my love for her is incredible. I love her so, so much. But in high school, emotions just take you over, and that's rough. I don't know what you two said to each other, that she blocked you on everything and would never even think about forgiving you, but the thing I've never got that whole like, hey, I'm so sorry that I did that. Well, if you're sorry, why did you do it in the first place? I don't know, because people make mistakes and can be dumb sometimes. It sucks, but it's the truth. I hope it wasn't that bad, and I hope you get that opportunity you talked about.
Story 2. I met him in high school. We stood next to each other in one of our choir classes, but maybe spoke to each other 5 times throughout the entire year. He was younger than me, but when I heard his voice, I was awed by his talent. But that's not what got me. We had 2 conversations that really impacted me. One over a song he was playing on the guitar before choir started while everyone else was on the other side of the room. First time I really got to see what was behind the shy boy exterior, and I really liked it. More than a talented kid, he was passionate and well-spoken. Second conversation was me pushing him to audition for this really hard-to-get-into show choir because he was holding himself back despite wanting to join it. I knew he could do it, and from one conversation, I somehow convinced him to. He texted me when he got in. But then I graduated, and that was pretty much it, except for occasionally seeing each other's posts on Instagram. Although we started to occasionally talk on Instagram, not often, but we would check in on each other here and there. Fast forward to us both being fairly new young adults, and I think he was the one to hit me up first this time. I can't remember why, but we ended up talking for more than just a day or 2. He wasn't the shy boy I met in high school. He was charming, charismatic, understanding, and extremely passionate. And he liked that I was passionate too, to the point he said, "Eff it, what are you doing Friday?" After 2 weeks of talking, we've been dating for nearly a year now, and I'm planning on moving with him to Boston because he got into Berklee College of Music.
I mean, you know me, I'm a sucker for a story with a sweet, happy ending, and this one made me happy. This is wonderful. I'm glad that, you two both grew, you had this connection, but, you fostered this wonderful friendship first. And finally, after years of keeping that friendship and connection alive, you just went for it and things are working out. And I hope they continue working out.
Story 3. Well, there was this girl called Karen who I liked back when I was 8 or 9 years old. She was a dark-haired girl with hair bangs and green eyes. I had a huge crush on her back then, and it turns out she had a crush on me too, but she left the school soon after, and we didn't see each other again until 2020. Anyways, many years passed, and I already had my girlfriend, now wife. So one day I was in the store and I bumped into Karen and we both recognized each other, and we talked for a few minutes until I told her I had a girlfriend, which seemed to me like one. Her smile disappeared and she just said, "Oh," and left. I didn't think much of it and didn't think much of it, so I left after buying everything I needed, and that was it. Weeks later, she called me and asked me to get coffee or something to eat so that we could catch up. I accepted and met her at a restaurant, and we started to chat until she tried to kiss me. I gently pushed her back and told her I had a girlfriend, but of course she said that she wouldn't find out and tried kissing me again, and I just decided to pay and leave at this point. Karen followed me and told me that she still remembered me from all those years ago and still had feelings for me. But I told her that I had my girlfriend and I wasn't going to cheat on her, and asked Karen to not contact me again. Got in my car and left her there. Haven't seen her again since then. I don't regret my decision. I've known my wife since the age of 10, and we've been through hell and back together, and I would never cheat on her. Story 4. Still see her from time to time, and while I did have a small crush on her, it was more because she was the first female friend I had, since we knew each other as babies because our moms were best friends. We always saw each other doing New Year's and birthday parties, but we never hung out despite always going to the same school since kindergarten. When high school happened, we saw each other less and less since we went to different schools, and whatever crush I had disappeared with time. Funny thing, however, is that my dad's birthday was just a month ago, and we actually sat down and talked about if our dating would have worked out, along with my little sister and her little brother talking about the same thing across from our table. All four of us realized that dating between our families would just feel awkward since we've known each other for so long. Our moms are practically sisters, and our dads are as close as brothers without actually being blood related. Me and her agree that we saw each other more as brother and sister from different families or non-blood relatives, and if we got together, it would just be weird. Doesn't help that we have nothing in common and are only friends since we've known each other for so long. Story 5. I don't know why I'm telling my story here, but here goes. When I was in 8th grade, I had a crush on this tall and pretty girl. I took my chance, and we got to be friends, and eventually she developed some feelings for me as well. We've had something called mutual understanding. Who cares? Means dating, but not really labeled as girlfriend-boyfriend thing. Some months passed, we ran into some personal issues I cannot share, which ended our 9-month thing. Fast forward into 11th grade, almost 3 years after we ended our first relationship. She sent me a friend request, but I didn't respond to it at first because of how things turned badly before, but she kept contacting me online, and eventually I responded to her and agreed to meet because she needed some help. That's when she told me her life is in a bad situation, both school, friends, and other teenage stuffs, and she said she needed some friend to talk to, given we were friends before we became a thing back then. Months passed, and I told her we cannot keep the current friendship we have because I still have some feelings for her that I didn't know were still there. Fast forward to 2022, and we're en route to 6 years of being girlfriend and boyfriend.
6 years! That's awesome! That's wonderful. And also, I think it's a good thing for people to know that sometimes it's just not the right time and place for a relationship. And that's okay, especially when you're younger. What, they said 8th grade? Like, that's pretty young. Like, most relationships that start in 8th grade don't last. But if you can have the wherewithal to take a step back and give it some time for you both to grow, that's wonderful. I think that can be very, very important. So, good for you.
Story 6. Had a toxic on and off situation with my high school crush. We met in S3 biology. We were 14. I became infatuated quite quickly. My friends would tease me relentlessly about him. He started staring at me whenever he could, started coming to my class to see me and get close, etc. I thought he felt the same way. Gave him my phone number and we texted for a while. He was popular and I was the outsider nerdy girl, so my peers were really into what was going on between us. Long story short, he led me on for 4 years and broke my heart 5 times. I was so head over heels, it was insane, and I was so heartbroken by the end of it. Now I see him and I just don't know what the hell I saw. He drinks and smokes and would be genuinely bad for me. Today he has a girlfriend and they've been together for nearly 5 years now. He has a job and seems happy. I'm at university studying for a criminology degree and en route to a 2.1 already. My life is so much more peaceful and drama-free without him, fully healed from the emotional trauma and can happily look for someone who deserves me. Story 7. Nearly 10 years later, we decided to meet up since I was in town. She acted so rude about it as if it was a chore. She had gone through a lot and become mentally unstable. When I admitted to her that I liked her, she said she always knew, but it will never happen. I was sad to see her mental decline and to hear what she had gone through. Before we parted ways, she bought me a yoga mat and told me to take care of myself. I knew our lives would have been great together and I would have taken care of her. She straight up told me even though she finds me physically attractive and can see me romantically, she doesn't like guys that are good for her because she likes the thrill of the unpredictability and wants to be able to fix the guy. The girl I knew from 10 years ago was completely gone. Her eyes didn't even look the same. Story 8. Dang, I had that happen to me. Girl I was crushing on hard all through high school but got nowhere and showed up at our 10-year reunion. Didn't look too bad and was single but hadn't really done anything with her life, opting instead to try and coast through on her looks. She got drunk and started harassing all the guys who she could remember crushing on her during high school. There were a few of us, I'll admit. When it was finally my turn, I'd had prior warning of what was coming, so I was ready for it. She said something like, "You wanted me bad back in high school." And I responded with, "Yes, but I wear glasses now." Not the strongest comeback, I'm happy to admit that, but she had nothing else to say to me or anybody else. And about 10 minutes after my week burn, she disappeared from the reunion altogether. Story 9. In high school, I had a huge crush on this girl that I used to hang out with every weekend, but she was crushing super hard on an upperclassman at the time. About a year or two after graduation, I ran into her on a nature trail and saw that she had put on a lot of weight. I didn't recognize her at first till I saw her face. She was noticeably depressed, too. She had gotten with that upperclassman and wound up pregnant. It was obviously a mistake because she might as well have been a different person from the one I knew. I still feel bad for her, to be honest. It was clear on that trail what her life could have been versus where it was at, and was genuinely just sad.
I mean, hey, she made some, maybe what she considers mistakes in life. Maybe not, gaining weight, not a big deal. I've gained weight, I've lost weight, whatever. Had a kid early on. Maybe it wasn't her plan, but maybe things will work out okay. Maybe her life is going to get better later on. And, maybe you two would have worked out and her life would have been different. Maybe her life would have been worse and your life would have been worse because you wouldn't work out together. You never know. You don't know what things could have been necessarily, but the best you can do is just you move forward and live your best life, and I hope she moves forward and tries to live her best life.
Story 10. I had a girlfriend in preschool named Karen. She looked just like you'd expect, a mini Karen. I didn't actually like her, but we were in one of those preschool relationships. But one day in 3rd grade, I just broke it to her that I didn't like her anymore. It's now junior year, and Karen has me blocked on all social media and goes to a completely different school now. She still, for some reason, walks by my high school every day. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.